Hey everyone, we're here for the BRO wrap up. It's been long. Usually we did it like once after every tournament or every block, but this time we decided to chill out, right? It's been a chill couple of weekends, I'm sure. How introduce yourselves? How'd you guys all go? I think everyone knows each other by now, right? Everyone kind of, if you've been watching this channel, especially this section, you probably know what's going on. But let's kind of just quickly go through how you all went. We'll start from Kelvin, I guess, alphabetical order. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hello, my name's Kelvin. I think I played in pretty much almost all of the tournaments minus the last two in D standard. It's totally scrubbed out in premium and V premium, yeah. But apparently the rocks love me so much that yeah, I've got, was it top 8 in NA? That's about it.
In A? What?
In AO, right?
AO. My bad.
He's strong.
Oh wow. Okay, Mark, how are you?
Hi, it's Mark. I also played in almost everything. The only thing I didn't play was NA Premium because I slept through that. But that didn't matter. Didn't top anything.
Yeah, I think I know why, because Solon didn't even play, and usually you guys play the same regions, right? So
okay. So
that's right.
Solon's fault.
That's right.
All right.
We've got...
Solon, if you're watching, make sure you join next time.
Yeah, that's right. Come to Australia, and then you guys can top together. All right. Then we got the king here, the AO king. How's it going, man?
What up, bro?
We get to see your face now, right? This is the exclusive WCC content. If you watch the interviews on the BRO VODs, you can only see his hands, but now you get to see the face. How'd you go, man?
Bro, I only show my face on WCC because if I show my face on stream, the opponents would be too terrified. I'm kidding. Jokes aside, if you've been following Bro, then you definitely know or probably heard of my name. It's been quite a run. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the 3P, but I definitely made the 3P finalists. Yes. And a dream has been achieved.
Yes, but you can also extend that dream by playing Y Schwartz next week as well, or this week.
Oh my gosh, I have 1 week to learn a game, bro.
The new tech.
Yeah, with WCC, anything's possible.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, big congrats to Steven for being for Iron Manning through all of AO, taking the region pretty much twice. Yes, very cool. And then lastly got Toby.
Oh, hold on. He's also got a few respectable tops. I think Steven got what in total? 5?
I actually did, yeah. He also went to EU, right?
Oh yeah. I tried to conquer everything but except for NA.
Yeah. It's like like if you think about it, Australia and Europe, very similar, in terms of like country, but NA, all about that freedom. So very hard to beat them down, right?
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, Steven's run was really amazing. Actually, like really amazing. So good job, man. Good job. Everyone should be more like you. Buy an iPhone.
Thank you.
Get more handsome. Win more events. Right? Toby, did you buy an iPhone yet?
No, I'm still on the Android train.
Yeah, we could see it.
For the foreseeable future.
See it for this view right here.
Yeah. Yeah, the temporal setup. Yeah, so because of my work, I couldn't play in the AO time zones in many of the tournaments, but I did end up playing EU for the most part, and then some NAs, and I came away with a top 4 premium in NA and a top 4 V premium in EU. So we're playing roughly about 6 tournaments on average, besides some early drop-offs on some of the others, but turned out to be a pretty good run.
Nice. That's good job. And then I played 2 events in EU and I topped one of them, so feels good, man.
That plays pretty strong.
Not washed up anymore. I like Derek. Ah.
The birds.
The birds. Well, he's not here to defend himself, so we get to have some fun. But yeah, look, I think everyone did really good in this, even if you didn't top or not. It's just it was been another BRO experience, right? Of course, the Weisses. I think mainly the top line here is gonna be continuing next week as well. So good luck there. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun, right? Just more community interaction, and I think like just meeting a bunch of players like online has been great. But overall, like let's kind of go through the weeks, right? Because there's been a few. Let's start off with Premium, the first one. What did you guys think of Premium? Anyone want to start? Raise their hands or just talk about stuff. Yeah, there we go. Let's go, Toby.
Yeah, well, it's pretty interesting to see that we were pretty much coming off the back of, kind of say, a fresh format in the retrospect of having Premium Collection released just a short time before BRO itself came out.
Yeah.
And that meant an unsolved meta for the most part, right? Generally, people played so many different decks, and you could see from even just like some of the top 8 standings, like pretty much nearly all of them had like massive diversity, right? What was it? AO Premium had all different decks, if I remember correctly.
That's right. That's
like,
right.
Yeah, that in itself was just insane to see, and sort of
that usually never happens in Euro, right? That usually
exactly, it never happened. Sometimes in general as well. Like it's the fact of like usually you see a dominant deck that would obviously take the top slots, but with Premium Collection obviously releasing a lot of powerful new strides and whatnot, and a lot of new game plans for decks, that it was pretty cool to see some of the insights and some of the builds that people decided to go with.
Yep. And I guess we always have to ask Steven these questions now because he pro'd it. You know, he dominated AO and won Premium. What'd you think, man?
Oh, it's pretty interesting because it was right off like a new ban list as well, where like Order Colony just got hit, and the supposedly Nightmare Doll hit. You know, the choice restriction. Oh god, ooh man,
bro, look,
so tough.
Doll's
Oh my
win,
gosh,
man.
what a decision to make. It's like playing with 14 stride zones. Oh. But it was definitely really nice to see a lot more diversity in decks, and it's pretty hard to determine like what was the best deck in the format, even though most of us thought like Nightmare Dolls was going to be the strongest one going into the format. It was definitely pretty interesting. You know, I brought Highlander. I won Bro with Highlander. Honestly, I think it was just sheer luck.
Wow. You don't have to be so modest, man.
Right, I can say the same when I won NA last time, Steven.
These two caught up, yeah. But I think, you know, Steven does raise a good point. It's like this actual specific point in time where, you know, there's a new ban list, there's actually a really high premium product that just got released, and it's in between another set that's gonna come out like soonish that has big impacts in the meta. So it's just like this one little bit in between like two big changes, which made it pretty made basically the format pretty interesting. And I also kind of want to say, right, like out of every single BRO tournament in just like the last 3 weeks, NA Premium was the only one that hit top 16, that hit over that threshold for top 16. Everyone else, like Standard and V-Prem, the amount of people registered for it was like way high, but then over 100 people didn't show up on the day, right? They just didn't check in. But NA, for Premium, they scraped over that one, right? And we got a big top 16 for Premium. So I think that kind of shows, like, in a way, how interested people were in the format, and like maybe how more engaged they were like to Premium compared to the other ones. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely crazy to think about, like, you know, if you're going with these is like the main format, and then you have like V, which still has a lot of invested players, and Premium is like, you know, what most players used to think, you know, it's gated behind the, you know, players who are more experienced and with a larger card pool. But suddenly it's become like such an accessible and such an interesting you know, game. And like so many people played it. There's so many interesting games. You know, each time you go into a matchup, you're like, oh my god, what the hell's gonna happen in this game? And yeah, I think that definitely like helped the hype. It's not just like in NA where like the premium numbers hit the, that top 16 cap, but also in the other formats. I think overall premium definitely had like a very strong show up.
One thing I want to point out is that because of the high number we hit with NA premium, they actually decided to push NA earlier for the rest of the weeks.
You know, I think that was a great decision. I think that was actually a great decision, right? Because that means the tournament didn't run into top 8 for AO, and then like our view numbers didn't get slaughtered by like the NA Swiss rounds. And like, to be fair, like actually we might be jumping a bit ahead here, but every single like tournament actually ran on time. It was really surprising. You could actually just go from one tournament to the next without like losing a round. So
yeah, so I think that's like one thing I really want to give a shout out for, like the BRO stuff and the crew behind the screen. And then this is like the third online event they've done, right? So it is still quite how would you say early in terms of like having all the team production, but they've done like a crazy good job. I mean, you have 24 hours in a day. You divide it by 3 regions, 8 hours each. You fit them in, and you have a pretty good schedule.
That's right. But yeah, that was great. I think the small things after week 1 as well, in terms of production, was very, very good. And I guess we can move on to week 2, like VPrem. I think going into that, a lot of people expected a lot of things, but some of the things didn't turn out expected, right? Like, what do you guys think?
Well, I think
it's balanced,
but it turns out
I was gonna say, we finally had a fresh format. No more big fish in that retrospect, but new fish, right?
Yeah, no prisons. I think it's interesting that like that everyone was supposed to be on gold paladins, but because everyone was hyping that deck up so much, everyone looked for more ways to like kind of beat it. And we have something like Davis also getting some good cards. Yeah, Steven, you being the C-man here, what do you think of not running Adelaide?
Bro, it's always fishing season, bro.
Nice.
Aquatic men. But I didn't get Adelaide in time. I mean, I also did take a look at Adelaide, and I saw that it definitely helped with like the mid-late game. However, early game where you need something the most to rush down Gurgit, it didn't really help at all. So the alternative was Terrific Coil Dragon, which if I opened it, then pretty much my turn 2 was already like 4 attacks at least minimum. And if I also open Wheel Assault, and I'm actually just a savage, then it's 5 attacks.
And you just killed all the Gurgits, right? Like it wasn't even
fair, I think my record was like 7 Gurgits. I slayed an AO alone.
Gurgit Slayer.
Just Gurgit after Gurgit after Gurgit, and I was like, keep them coming.
Eating gold for breakfast.
It's actually insane because I don't think I've even faced that many Gurgits for my entire run.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Like okay, so Kelvin, you played Gold Paladin as like a Gurgit player. What do you think? Were you just sad for the whole weekend?
No, not really. I played like pretty much all 23 rounds. I went X2 in both NA and AO, so I just nearly missed top 8. But overall, I do feel like players are trying to play decks that are a lot faster to just get that early game clap and close the game before Gurgit gets their 3-4 axles. So the pressure is definitely there, and as a Gurgit player, you sometimes like you stare at your hand like, oh my god, I'm just like vanilla bashing with like 9k units early game. And like when you see Percival goes to damage, you're like, oh no, this is just like a no game sometimes. Definitely, I would think twice about the deck choice, but I didn't expect people to bring like such speedy decks at the moment.
Toby, I want to ask you. You were an Astral Point man.
Mhm.
How did that go?
Yeah, he's the speedy man. Gotta go fast.
Yeah. Yeah, like, again, that was my mentality metric as well. Like obviously, like Gurgit was the main option for people to pick. And across the board, I think the sort of mentality was the fact that a lot of people didn't want to play Gurgit mirrors
Yeah.
because inherently they're more sacky and kind of like it can be a bit skewed comparatively back in previous format past compared to Prism mirrors, where you can kind of, sort of set up your game plan and set things from there, pacing wise. Whereas like you could not draw Percival when your opponent does, and that skews the tempo of the game massively, right? Just for the one-off. So that always feels bad. And yeah, it's the fact that a lot of faster decks do exist and can overwhelm Gurgit, which obviously showed to be true with so many how the results showed up. And Pulse is my pick. Obviously, that's just one of my favorite decks and sort of mainline Genesis player to go with that pick, being faster than Gurgit and, well, faster and stronger than most things when you have the potential of killing your grade 3 ride to be able to do things with bulk. So, yeah, that served me pretty well going through EU, getting to fourth place. Because it got down to the fact that when it got to a grind game is when obviously Astral Poets can sort of lose their factor because they don't have too much shield. So you have to win first or kind of fall off.
That's right. Mark, do you want to talk about Anj? Or I think they kind of showcased it pretty well.
Like, I think there's been a lot of discussions right after BROV. In a way, I guess everyone started to see the potentials of Anj. I was very happy that I got to play the deck because I had no idea what I was going to play before. I knew I didn't want to play Gurgit, and I think I was totally prepared to just take Melody. Until I realized that, it's not exactly a best choice.
Hey, you could have played Chaos Messiah, man. I was willing to
Oh.
my Chaos Messiah.
Hey, we had a funny story because I was like keeping watch of like highest like record in EU, right? You played in EU, right?
Yeah.
And you're bro. You gotta be nice to your opponents, man. You can't make them quit the game.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So
every single time I beat someone, they dropped. Like every time, and I
they
played
got
like
deal.
I think I played like 5 Gurgits. I think every time I played them and I beat them, they just immediately dropped. So
It's the Link Joker effect.
the Link Joker effect.
The Link Joker, yeah. This is like what Mark and I have been like enduring for the past X years.
I don't even play the deck anymore because you guys.
Yeah, this is why Kai is like a caster
It's
now.
the Kai Chung X Link Joker effect.
Okay. I have 2 questions. So number 1, is Gurgit still tier 1?
Definitely.
I think so. Yeah. As a
Maybe
standalone
not
engine.
tier 0, definitely tier 1.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So if we're not putting it in tier 0, is it technically balanced?
No.
Nah, I think Gurgit by itself, I think it's a fine deck, but the decision to put Percival back into deck is a bit questionable, just because like how much
I just
impact
think
that one
Percival-
card has.
It is a card that shouldn't really exist.
Yeah,
okay.
I think if any clan gets a Percival, we'll play it.
Okay. Here's like a sub question, and this is probably directed more to Kelvin because he played Gurgit. Would you take Gurgit to another 8-round tournament?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah! All right, we shouldn't. Ask
Depends. If you're feeling lucky, I think it's an okay deck to bring.
Okay.
But definitely you need to get lucky.
Okay, and then now on to the second real question. Now, should Katir get banned?
Yes.
Is that even a question?
Yo, get rid of that card, bro. I'm serious.
The man himself
That's right.
played it to prove a
Matt Long
point.
has said it, but we need to like kind of emphasize it or like unemphasize it. But I think the consensus here is like, yeah, we should really get rid of that.
And it's got a number of reasons as well. It's not just like, from a gameplay point of
The
view.
power level of the card is a thing, and then the fact that it takes time to resolve what it does is a thing, and that factor just gets amplified when you're in an online setting, which is a point that Solom has made.
Imagine
like, a while
sitting
ago.
through like 5 Katirs in a row. You're literally just sitting there watching your opponent flip their entire deck
Yeah.
until they get whatever the hell they called on the last card of the deck. That's mentally draining, bro.
If I want to do that, I would be playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, but, okay, here's the other thing as well, is like, you might say it's bad in an online setting, but now if, like, let's say I am like Jimmy McJim here, right, and I look at the results for BRO and I go, what is the best deck? And I look at, there's this one guy that topped like 2 events with this like Katir deck. I'm gonna copy that deck, and then there's gonna be like 100 Jimmys out there that are like doing the same thing because they wanna like win their shop challenge, right? So you're gonna have like a bunch of them just like flipping their decks for like 4 times, 5 times every turn, and they won't be as fast as like a well-versed player, right? They'll pretty much just buy the deck and go, this is a tier 1 deck, right? And
yeah, I've seen Manlong flip his deck and he's like,
yeah. So they're gonna be like 1, 2, 3. So, like it's literally gonna be like Time City, like everyone's gonna get double lost. It's actually like not that good when you think about it.
And this has been going on for a while, right? Since like Highland has been played all the way since last year, and in different formats like BSF, like even in V, Katir deck started to be picked up, obviously, and that was sort of implemented in there as well more.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was same issue, right? People were still seeing copying lists from that and still taking the same factor, and that applies.
No,
to
but
XP, right?
not all of, like, you couldn't go outside all the time now. But now like the season has come, right? You know, everything is rising. Everyone's getting sweaty. Everyone's gonna like try and play the best deck because this is like BCS, right? So there is definitely a different like factor there compared to like, what's the next online tournament? I'm gonna play my fun deck, and that's kind of it, yeah. So I think maybe they really need to get a ban.
Well, even Springfest had results, right, of QT decks, even in V, as well as Premium with Highlander deck in Premium and.
Not in V.
there wasn't too many,
To
but
be
I mean,
honest-
before we had like Prism Highlander, and then the Prism stuff gets banned, so I guess you play more on the against the Katir.
Right, if you look at all the results from Springfest, there really wasn't that many Highlander decks at all in any format. But I think like this one would probably change a lot more. Just because Springfest is also that format where 1, you had the Prisms available, and 2, right, you could bring a lot of different decks in any of the formats in a way and still do kind of okay. So I don't think it wasn't that much of an issue. But now, like, again, like now you're the solo player. You have to bring the best of the best, and you have to like, there is only one best, right? And it could be.
And it's not just the BCS. You gotta rock up to like, you know, the shop challenges, and then, you know, it's gonna be a pretty fishy shop challenge if everyone's gonna be there for
season,
2
bro.
tiers.
Fishing season.
It's fishing season.
That's right.
Woo.
All right, and I think that's pretty much it for V. But let's kind of talk about standard then, right? You know, we had it. This was the past weekend was standard. You know, now I think standard's like the best format, right? Because it's.
There's a lot of decks. I gotta say, there's a lot of good decks.
True.
Saying that because it's the finally the only top track.
That's right. Yes, standard is so good now, guys. Like, you know, Overtree is not an issue. Not an issue. All right, who actually wants to start with standard? Let's go with who hates standard the most, Mark or Toby?
Mark.
Well, it's
quick.
pretty debatable.
Oh,
That was really
okay.
quick. Okay, Mark, what do you think of standard?
I just think it's too. It's not just Overtrigger that is a problem. When it does look like there's a lot of good decks in the format, I would argue it's also because of the fact that a lot of the decks has a similar power level, but the outcomes of the games is to a certain extent largely influenced by the luck factor.
Okay.
That isn't just exclusive to Overtrigger itself. Like whether you hit those offensive triggers and whether you hit those defensive triggers is much more impactful in standard compared to the other 2 formats.
I think as well, on top of that as well, going first is inherently a lot more powerful in standard than it is comparatively to the other 2 formats. Mainly due to the fact of, obviously, the 2 mechanics of Persona Ride and the Grade 4s being introduced into standard 2. Whichever deck gets to reach that metric first and can keep that like momentum and sustaining power level going, obviously has the biggest swing and the biggest pressure, right? The only deck that sort of subvert this kind of recently and sort of mitigate that is like Nirvana with its new Festival Collection card to able to jump ahead to be Grade 4 itself, right? But that's still what's in the factor that Persona Ride / Grade 4 is still the power avenue to try and get to, right? As the main engines for decks. for the most part, obviously. But that inherently is just really powerful, and the main ways decks can go about putting their big power numbers out kill turns, right?
Yep. Okay, so now let's talk to the people who topped and what do they think. Steven, you're the queen now of AO standard. What's the thoughts? What's the thoughts on Mr. Nirvana?
Standard is alright. Honestly, I thought there'd be a lot more Nirvana turnout. In my entire run of AO, I think I don't even know if I faced a Nirvana deck. I don't even remember, actually. I feel like every deck I faced was just Gravidia and Kyrie.
I actually faced no Nirvana, actually, in my run. What about
Really?
I'm curious to see sales numbers from the perspective of Festival Collection, because that was a very undersold set, right? It's very hard to get product for that set specifically, because the good singles are inherently so much more expensive, because that's where the money has to go.
Yeah.
And the few customers.
Like, Standard's definitely a lot more diverse in decks. You can see like people like Derek now playing like PBO, very heavily influenced by Brian Kai.
Yeah.
Gravidia is always a thing. Nirvana was, I think, the second most represented deck in AO, but I guess I just didn't run into one. There's also Bruce. There's what else is there? Bastion.
Kyrie.
I think sometimes we saw like Tamayura.
No, yeah, that was top 8 in A. That was Keys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Degrias, one thing I found.
Degria, yeah.
Surprising.
Degrias. There's a lot of Degrias.
And of course, Barrow is still around.
Yeah, Barrow.
Barrow didn't even top, right? I think this time. I was quite surprised.
Yeah, Barrow's very strong. But yeah, some of my thoughts on Nirvana. I think it's a Giga Chad deck. You know, if you end up low rolling the dice roll, you can always jump with Amelia, because Amelia is just broken. I think that card is way too underrated. And I think that's what makes honestly, I think Amelia makes the deck, because you can double ping if you're Chad enough with 3 counterblasts. And if you jump earlier, which means you get to use your Esperidia earlier, and that card is just broken. Otherwise, yeah, if you're a Chad, play Nirvana.
Yeah, I think it's like the most stable, sustainable deck in terms of like dice roll setting, right? Just because it has that option, you always feel safe regardless of if you lose or win the dice roll, because you feel like
that's right. Well,
avenue first.
When you go second,
and I feel
you can
like
still
the
have
power level in Overdress is like so crazy that one ping, that damage that you're getting like burned and chipped on is so impactful. And if they take that damage and they don't hit a trigger, a defensive trigger, or if they take 2 damage and they don't even hit a defensive trigger, it's just over, man.
Yeah, I stopped playing Nirvana after I pinged like 4 times. And my opponent got 4 hits. I'm just like, fuck it. No, I'm gonna play this deck.
I remember hearing about it.
Dude,
I told me that he pinged 4 times with Nirvana, and I was just thinking to myself, when I had to play that deck, it would be a stretch for me to do pings 3 times. How did you get to 4?
I mean, it's I learned from Steven. Steven has the best pings out of all of us. I think the game.
You see my heal at 6 in the semis, bro.
Those heals, those 2 heals.
Dude, like, not gonna lie, right? It's like we're gonna have a picture of you, right? And it's gonna be like when the VODs come out, we're gonna Photoshop it in. We'll be like, man, if my opponent heals here, and then I heal, and then I ping him. Then he's like dead, and I was like, "Yeah, that's the way I'm gonna go, man."
Well, I truly believe. I was like, "Man, this guy's gonna flip a heal on me right now."
All according to plan.
Yeah, actually, you know what's funny is you guys were talking about the most popular decks. I never even faced a single Gravidia deck.
Really?
But the meteorites, they're everywhere, man.
I faced no Gravidias. It's actually insane.
Oh, rocks on the floor.
Kelvin, how'd you go? You seem to be the guy that just likes to play mirrors all day.
Actually, now that you mentioned it, I did play a lot of mirrors. Played a lot of like Gurgit mirrors. Played a lot of like Gravidia mirrors, and every time on stream, it's always a mirror for some reason. But yeah, I think my top 8 game was on stream. There's like a lot of weird things happening on that game. I think I ran out of like meteors on turn 4, which is like what?
Very sad.
But you know, it was still a pretty close game, and I think near the end of it, might have misplayed slightly. I'm not entirely sure, but also like slightly unlucky with the double draw taking me myself out. But I think the matchup is like quite fun. Probably because both of us didn't get our over triggers. Otherwise, it would have been a very different game. But yeah, I think Gravity is like definitely a strong deck, and it's also one of those decks that's like you require very little cards to update. It's very easy to build, and a lot of people just like have it as a sort of like a pet deck. But yeah, I think I didn't actually get any over triggers throughout my entire run, even though I got this thing here. So I think that's where the over trigger went. But yeah, BRO standard was fun. Going first definitely is, I think, still quite strong just because it lets you, personal rights first, right to grade 4 first. And the fact that, people take Nirvana or, think highly of Nirvana is because they see the value of that, even if you go second, you can still go first. Says a lot about the format. So,
That's good. Yeah, I brought Prison, and I wanted to like triple drive and get a lot of like over triggers and quickly win, but I think I only got it once, and then most of my games I just sat there and like waited until my opponent decked out. So yeah, I wanted an easy game, but then they all became really hard games, and then half the time like I'd soul charge 3 and like lose like 2 pure lights, and I'm like, yeah. Life is hard, man. Life is hard. I had insane games. I'm gonna make a video about all the games I played, because like they were actually insane. Like if you actually looked at the tournament report, I played against top deck Heroes Philip. That was like actually a really insane game. And I played against Nils as well, the Greedon player. And I played against Man Long. That's like the only game I over triggered. That's like the one game I over triggered. And then I played against Karan, and then I played against a Wolfram at the end for Zorga. But yeah, no, I played against like everyone. Like it was like pretty crazy, So and they were all really good games. So really fun, actually. And yeah, just sitting there until my opponent decks out. Very cool. But yeah, no, I think overall for standard format, what do you guys think? Like, is it good? Right now, is it good? I feel like it's only gonna get better as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking towards like the new card designs in they're releasing more like boss cards. They're still giving some support for the existing cards, so we'll see a bit of a shift. But it will be quite a challenge to like move the grade 4 decks, especially like Kyrie and Nirvana. I think Lyrical's always gonna be up there somewhere. Yeah,
I feel like right now, like let's say we're coming from like a hyper competitive player standpoint, right? So like, man, like the 5% are like very significant to us, but like for a lot of players, and I think it kind of showed across all the regions, a lot of them just brought like whatever they wanted to bring or whatever they thought is like good, and they just made it work. Like I think that's pretty good, right?
Yeah, it depends on the dynamic you're kind of like approaching and looking at from what you want out of the game as a player, right? Like if you're aiming to sort of like do your best consistently as possible with like the best numbers that you can, standard can be a bit hard to sort of like pick a right metric, right? Because there's so many different choices in decks that have different impacts to the way the game shapes and forms at the moment that all kind of get to the end goal pretty well in a similar way, so it can make it hard there, which makes it easy as a format for the players that have those pet decks and those sort of mentality things to fine-tune things and do pretty good there, because inherently just the metric of how standard goes to do well.
Actually, I have a legit question for you guys, and this one was like asked to me as well, and that is, do you think standard has too many games that lead to deck out?
I mean, this is time quite a lot, surprisingly, compared to the other formats.
Yeah.
I think it's matchup dependent as well. Like some of the decks inherently just go through itself so much more. I know Triple Drive does add to that, and that has become more of a thing since Triple Drive with the Great Force, but a lot more decks go through the decks more than others, right?
But I think a lot of the decks rely a lot on getting the Great 4 or Great 3, and when you don't do that, you just do vanilla pokes, and those turns just sort of drag out. Those turn 6/7s that doesn't actually add up too much until you finally just run out of juice.
I think like a lot of like if you were to play at locals, right? You'd find a lot of people just like ride and crit, you can crit and go boom, and the game goes really quickly, right? But when you're in like a competitive like big tournament, the only way that you can like farm a hand and to like survive like big pushes and things like that is to like slow the game down by not giving your opponent any damage until you farm enough that you're happy to like start pushing. Do you think do you think that's the problem? Do you think that's like adding to like the big issue of like everyone just going, okay, I'm nearly out of deck. How many do you have? You have 3 cards. Okay, just like that. What do you think? Like,
I can see that in sort of like some aspects, right? Like a lot of the power cards of standard that require like things have like metrics and mentality to do that.
You broke up.
Oh, sorry, like the power decks that require the counterblast, right?
Yeah.
Decks that are like a pure light, Gravidia, decks that sort of rely on the main counterblast usage for a lot of their impacts. Decks trying to play against that will try and slow the game down for that factor because they don't want to be straight up overwhelmed or blown out. So I think that does heavily play a factor.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts?
I was thinking that it goes back to my initial argument about the luck factor of the format at the moment. So on the side where when you hit the triggers offensively or defensively, you can have games that goes rather quickly because flipping that 1 or 2 triggers simply overwhelms your opponent. And then on the flip side, when both sides don't get much action, that's where games tend to drag out. Like, if I don't flip triggers, I don't draw my persona rights, then there's very little that you can do. You do like 3-4 attacks, you take out like 2 cards in their hand, and then they get it back by drive checking next turn, and then both sides do that sort of things. That's when you tend to have very long games. Like, I think the length of standard games can either go very quickly or very long, and there isn't too many games where it's sort of in the middle of like being the average length that you expect from Vanguard games that we normally expect.
Okay, this is a good way to put it. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to like lead on to what Mark was saying as well about like the trigger factor pushing things. Like, I definitely think it's standard a lot more than the other formats. Like triggers make that impact. Like, I went X2 in EU because 2 of my games got sent from 1 to 4 with a double crit on the first grade 3 rides. In different formats like V and more especially Premium, that would be a completely different factor because that like allows me to have a lot more resources and do a bigger push and potentially kill my opponent. Yeah. In Standard, however, I got back into a massive corner because I can't use those cannon blasts effectively for a big payoff, right? Because that's more of the chip away sustainable growing into the game plan, right? And so I was always back into a corner being sent to that high damage for us because of the trigger factor.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Just like a last bit, I think part of it's also just with like how the cards are designed with the 5 nations cards. I think they're being very careful with like attack extenders and things like that, because that can easily snowball into the other formats or just make certain nations a lot more stronger than the other ones. So I think they're like keeping the card design same. And you gotta remember we're only up to like set 5-ish. And not every set supports all the decks, so most decks have like about 2 to 3, 4 if you're lucky sets building into it. And yeah, I think it's just about right with the power levels currently. So we'll see in the next year or so.
Okay. I'm kind of worried about the factor about how many ride lines we've been getting and how much different avenues they're building on, honestly, because the more they do this, the more like things get thinned out, right? And if there's going to be continual progression, it's going to be worrying as they go on with set releases.
I mean, but does it really matter? Because hey, if your ride line doesn't get supported, it's just as if you've played like Mega Colony or Great Nature or Tachikaze back then, right? You just feel really bad, but just
That's
play
true.
something else. Right? Now that your cards technically have a high chance of being moved to another ride line in your same nation, so now they can say deal with it.
I'm waiting for my grade 4 chaos.
Yeah, I'm waiting for chaos too, man. I might not be thinking about the same chaos though.
Yo, man, if Chrono Jet can get a retrain, Chaos can get a retrain too.
Oh god.
Oh yeah, true. We nearly forgot about that. That's coming out. I think we get our first reveals. This is recorded on a Monday, so whenever this comes out, it'll be tomorrow that we see the real stuff. And I'm sure some of us will be quite happy, and some of us might just be, you know, buying more copies of Dark States cards, right?
Sounds about right.
Okay, so I think that pretty much just wraps up all of BRO. Is there any last words you want to say? Just, you know, maybe talk, a quick talk about the events, but I think we kind of went through that as well. I think we went through a lot already. So any last words, guys? Let's start with Kelvin. You're next to me.
Well, see you guys in Wise.
Okay, cool. Mark?
Ditto.
You know? Wow. Very quick.
But yeah, good event. As usual. Just not much. But like, I want to try to be more critical of things, like usually in these sort of discussions, but there wasn't too much that I can really find to provide feedbacks whatsoever. Like we said before, everything was ran pretty smoothly, and the move of NA just made times work better. There's no need for anyone to drop anything. So yeah.
NA was known to be the slow region, right? I was about to say slow nation, but now it's just actually pretty fast. It actually goes really quickly. So, like the speed increase has been like a good job, right? Thumbs up, big thumbs up, right?
Got the formula now.
Yeah, they got the formula, so good stuff.
Thanks, Chusan.
Yeah, thanks, Chusan. Steven, any last words you want to say?
Bro was good. That's not saying it was good because I topped. But you know, the events are run pretty smoothly. AO was hella fast. Like it was, yo, your round finished, and then by the time everyone finished, yo, you had 3 minutes to get to your next table, and then pre-mull or post-mull, and I like that. Because sometimes before it would be like, yo, you got like 10-15 minutes post-mull, you gotta wait. So you and your opponent literally just sitting there in the channel being like, yo, so how was your day?
What time is it in your region?
But AO was executed very well. EU very well as well. I heard NA was kind of slow this time around, but I think it's definitely gone faster. So I've heard a lot of good, better reviews. But you know, I think going forward into the future, Bro would definitely continue to be a thing. I think because of, you know, post-COVID. Hopefully we shy away from that and just have more events coming back now because BCS season's here. But looking forward to the future, you know.
Cool. And Toby?
Yeah, it's just been a metric of, you know, since we had our first online event coming into now, things have just gotten better and better as, you know, the staff involved in the teams have just gone into practice about how to properly formulate running the tournament and improving on everything. So even right now, they've done an incredible job so far of just being able to manage things on the tournament side, the stream side. It's all been very impressive and very cool. So I'm looking forward to hopefully more tournaments like this in the future, because it gives obviously more people opportunity to play when they don't have as much access to playing in tournaments as they do. Remote Fire gives an amazing opportunity to be able to, you know, meet new people, branch out in that you know, aspect, and find new communities and things. So it's been really good.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think it's just been really good. I hope they do more in the future. I think it's just it just feels like the numbers still keep on going up or stay strong for BRO. So that's like a good thing to see, right? It's a good thing to see. If you like something, keep on supporting it, and they'll just keep running it. And if you guys got any feedback, just send it to them. when they ask for the feedback. So overall, that's it. I think just before we finish, everyone praise Steven 3 times. You know, because he did so well. Give him the kudos. Yeah, Steven Air King. That's right. That's right. And and yeah, and with that, I think everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks you guys all for attending today, having a quick chat, and we'll see you guys, I guess, next time, right?
Bye.